from the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
Welcome to the Primetime News Bulletin on Joy News on Multi TV. Coming up, National Forum to assess single spine pay policy gets underway with a call from the President to stakeholders to consider finding a permanent pay policy for Article 71 office holders. The TUC has meanwhile once again challenged government's claim that public sector salaries are a major drain on the state. CDD Afrobarometer survey indicates Ghanaians wouldn't mind paying higher taxes if only governments will be more transparent about how they are used. IGP assures Parliamentary Select Committee the police service is ready to deal with any disturbances that may arise from Supreme Court ruling on election petition. And government promises private universities which plow back their profits will be exempted from its taxation policy. We also have sports, showbiz and international news coming up in the next 60 minutes.
News at 8 with Israel Lai.
In our very first story, President John Dramani Mahama has directed the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning and the Employment and Labour Relations Ministry to negotiate with the National Tripartite Committee for wages and salaries before the presentation of the national budget. The President expressed concern that 70% of government's budget last year was used to settle the salaries of public sector workers, leaving very little for government to finance development projects. The President, who was addressing participants at the National Forum to discuss the way forward on the single spine salary structure, charged the stakeholders to consider a more workable pay policy for Article 71 office holders.
The two-day program attracted participants from the security services, political parties, labor unions and associations, ministries, departments and agencies, judiciary and legislature, and civil society organizations. It was also to give participants first-hand knowledge on the implication of the single spine pay policy on the economy, the overview of the policy, key components, basic implementation requirements, and the challenges so far. President John Dramani Mahama, who delivered the keynote address first of all, charged the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission to migrate all public sector workers on the pay policy before the end of the year.
I've also directed the Minister for Finance and the Minister for Employment and Labour Relations to work with the Tripartite Committee and the Permanent Standing Joint Negotiating Committee on a revised agenda that will ensure that public sector wages are negotiated before we read the budget. Mr. Chairman, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, you are aware of the challenges we have had with some of our public service institutions on the issue of market premium. Fortunately, as I said, government has come up with a white paper on the guidelines for the determination of market premium, properly known in the public service. I urge the forum to discuss the guidelines and build consensus on modalities that will enhance its implementation, with focus on the prerequisite conditions, qualifications, and determination of market premium, conversion difference, and Category 2, 3, and 4 allowances.
He also tasked the Commission to collaborate with the Statistical Service to conduct a labour market survey to ensure the work done by public sector workers commensurate with the salaries they receive. The survey will first be conducted on public sector workers in the health and education sectors. The President also indicated that the cancellation of the single spine pay policy was not an option for government, and appealed to stakeholders at the National Forum to discuss the issues dispassionately in order to find a way out of the huge budget deficit government has had to grapple with every year as a result of the pay policy. The President again expressed worry that the salaries of Article 71 office holders was another distortion in the pay policy and called on stakeholders through their discussions to address the issue.
With the caliber of personalities gathered here, coming from the executive, the judiciary, legislature, Council of States, House of Chiefs, organized labor, employers, academia, civil society organizations, security services, think tanks, I have absolutely no doubt that the deliberations here will be dispassionate, objective, and will be fruitful. And that at the end of the day, we would leave here with a consensus on how to nurture our young single-spine pay policy to be a model that in future will attract others to come and see how Ghana did it. I wish to thank you all for taking time off to be a part of this forum. God bless us all. God open our minds and let us come out of here with a strong consensus on our new SSPP. I thank you. God bless Ghana.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
He later challenged the Minister of Finance to let the forum know all government expenditures, to provide the actual picture to participants, to offer useful recommendations.
Meanwhile, Secretary General of the Trade Union Congress, Kofi Asamoah, has appealed to government to take another look at the single-spine salary structure since there were issues of disparity in the implementation that still needed to be addressed. Kofi Asamoah expressed concern the salaries of public sector workers still continue to rank among the lowest on the continent, despite the implementation of the single-spine pay policy.
Organized labor is aware of the fiscal implications of the new pay policy. We are aware that with the implementation of the single-spine, some public sector workers have experienced significant improvements in their pay. But we are also aware that not all public sector workers have seen enhancement of their pay. Those that have experienced significant improvements are coming from a very low base. Thus, despite the implementation of the single spine, public sector pay in Ghana continues to rank among the lowest on the African continent.
Kofi Asamoah also challenged government's assertion that 70% of its budget was used to pay the salaries of public sector workers.
Mr. President, we are aware that the single spine and indeed the entire government payment regime is infested with inefficiencies, wastage, and outright corruption. The phenomenon of ghost workers continues to plague the payroll despite the attempt to biometrically verify workers and pensioners. We are aware of the difficulties in the management of payroll at the Accountant General's Department. Going forward, it is crucial that we address these challenges. We expect that government complements investments in the payroll technology with political action that makes payroll fraud too expensive for the fraudsters.
Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Nneɛma Ashite, expressed government's commitment to ensure the successful implementation of single spine, as Ghana has become the reference point over the months in terms of equity in pay policy. He said the forum would offer the opportunity to review the policy and resolve issues that have mitigated against its implementation over the years, and a chance to strengthen relations between government and the labour front and other stakeholders in the labour sector.
Meanwhile, President John Dramani Mahama has ordered the Attorney General and Minister of Justice to begin prosecuting all persons indicted for financial misappropriation by the Auditor General. The President gave the directive when he joined Labour at the forum to discuss the sustainability of the single-spine salary structure.
Government is also taking action to block leakages and theft of government revenues. I've asked the Attorney General to commence action to prosecute people indicted in the Auditor General's report who have misappropriated government revenues or caused financial loss to the state. It is my expectation that Labour and our social partners will support us in these actions to safeguard the public purse. While pensions are not a direct discussion in this forum, I wish to indicate government's commitment to push on with the pension reforms that we all embarked upon. In this regard, government is going to make appointments, substantive appointments to the National Pension Regulatory Authority in order that it has the right leadership to move the pension reforms forward.
Majority of Ghanaians have expressed their readiness to pay higher taxes if only government will be transparent about how it uses the tax revenue. According to the Center for Democratic Development's Afrobarometer survey report on citizens' views on taxation, most respondents said they do not know what their monies were used for. The release of the report comes on the heels of recent tax increases announced by government.
The research, which involved 24,000 respondents, revealed that most Ghanaians are aware of their tax obligations to the state. But the respondents said the cumbersome tax process deters them from compliance. The Revenue Authority, according to the survey, is also perceived as corrupt.
The Ghana Revenue Agency should do an introspection to take a look at themselves, to identify the loopholes that are in their own system, to be able to find out why people perceive them as corrupt. It may or may not be true, but the perception is there. So it's an opportunity for them to do an introspection and find out what is creating that perception and take steps to address whatever concerns there are there.
The Ghana Revenue Authority said it would study the report and take steps to address the concerns raised.
When people want to run away from the payments of tax, they will tell you, we don't know, we are not aware. But from this survey, it tells us that they know, but they intentionally say they don't know. So they are not being truthful. That is the only thing. So we need to be very careful now to go further than what we used to take it that, oh, they may not know. We won't take things for granted and then work better. Whatever loopholes that come up, I think my team of the research unit will look at it.
Stakeholders in a discussion after the release of the survey suggested the need to coordinate national data to help in revenue collection. They also called for more stakeholder consultations to restructure the tax system and also get more people to file their tax returns.
So the idea it is more of a chicken and egg problem. People think government do it and then I'll pay my taxes. Government on the other hand is pay your taxes and I'll provide you for the services. So the issue is people have kept paying, they are not seeing. Can we for once also start showcasing what the money is being used for to encourage them to pay up?
The report also called for increased education on the need to pay tax as well as reduce perceptions of inequality, which serves as a motivation for people to evade tax.
Okay, so that's a very interesting issue there. The CDD Afrobarometer survey is saying that Ghanaians wouldn't mind paying higher taxes if only government will be more transparent about how these taxes are used. Do you share that view? Get onto our Facebook wall and let us know what you think. If you know what your taxes are used for, just leave a comment on our Facebook wall. If you don't know and you share with this position, also let us know. And we'll be reading your comments a little later in the bulletin. In other news, the first annual Africa Innovation Forum, which aims to bring together some of the sub-region's most creative minds, has opened in Accra. The two-day forum is focused on unleashing innovation leadership in Africa to help address the economic challenges facing the continent.
Given the increasing market competition and new challenges facing various firms and organizations, the need to improve on the abilities and skills of individuals and firms has necessitated the forum. In a fast-changing competitive world, organizations in Africa are faced with new challenges almost on a daily basis. It is therefore imperative that Africa develops a global perspective in navigating the changing environment to enhance skills and capacities, to think creatively, to develop innovative actions. This will help reduce costs, improve efficiency, develop new products and services, and enhance organizational growth. The managing director of Access Bank told the forum, "It is about time Africa rose to the challenge."
Africa has contributed little or nothing to these innovations that continue to change our ways of life and the way we do business. Over 90% of the world's most remarkable innovations have come from outside Africa. These improved products and new innovations from Europe, from Asia, the Americas are either sold or shipped wholesale to Africa or have not added value in solving our old age and economic problems. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, there is so much over-reliance of products from outside Africa and too little on Africa and what Africa can do. To achieve meaningful growth, Africa must look for solutions, its own homegrown solutions, to address the various challenges we face.
The founding executive director of CIPS, Professor Kweku Etuahene-Jima, said being creative alone is not enough.
Processes that allow you to have a deep understanding, deep insight into customer problems, deep insight into customers' constraints, deep insights into customers' future aspirations. And if you have that, then you have the strong basis to create new solutions.
The expectation is that businesses in Africa will use their forum to promote creativity and innovation to champion the economic emancipation of African countries.
We're taking a break. We have more stories coming up. Don't go away. Right, you're welcome to the bulletin. The Supreme Court is to hear the oral submissions of the written addresses of the parties in the election petition tomorrow. In our countdown to the session, we continue to highlight aspects of the written addresses, and Anio Sabuti, who has been following the proceedings, he joins me in the studio for exactly that. Good evening, Annie, and thank you for joining me once again after yesterday. So, what are we focusing on now? Tonight.
Essentially, just to box everything out, and throughout these proceedings, when it started on the 16th, key areas are overvoting, and that no signature by the presiding officer and no biometric verification. So these are the...
Yesterday we did that overvoting.
Precisely so. So today we are going to look at the concluding remarks of the lawyers after they put out forth their argument, what essentially they are seeking for the 9 judges to do. And just before we go to that, let's just look at the issues that was set for the trial. And if you recall, on the 2nd of April 2013, when the lawyers had, prior to that, given the various lawyers to go back and agree on the issues, they failed to do so. So they came back to the court, and the court set the 2 issues. And one, whether or not there were violations, omissions, malpractices, and irregularities in the conduct of the presidential election held on the 7th and 8th December 2012.
Okay.
2, whether or not the said violations, omissions, malpractices, and irregularities, if any, affected the results of the election. So recall that afterwards, then the court said that in order to expedite the process, then it must come by trial by affidavit, which means that every single thing you have ought to be documented. The lawyers are just allowed oral submission of their cases and things like that. But then the court also said that under a compelling reason will a witness be called to give oral testimony. So in all, they put forward the argument, they've been counter-arguments and things like that. But for the petitioners, they are seeking, in their closing remarks, what essentially. Precisely. So for the petitioners, and this is essentially what we hope that they're going to be addressed. And I'm just going to read portions of that, Israel. And according to them, they are seeking the court to annul more than 1 million votes. They believe that if that is done, it will declare Nana Akufo-Addo the president.
How many votes precisely?
Okay, so just took more than 1 million votes. They believe that were ought to be annulled from that of John Mahama. And if that is done, Nana Addo is declared the winner.
I thought earlier on they were asking for a bit more than 1 million.
Absolutely. But just to, just for the purpose of this, let me just read the portion. It says, in the premises, this honorable court is respectfully invited to hold that the first petitioner, and when we talk about the first petitioner, we're talking about Nana Akufo-Addo, having obtained 4,157,012 valid vote cast as a result of the annulment of 1,233,186 invalid votes from the figure of 5,248,898, that is from President Mahama, declared for him by the second respondent, that is the Electoral Commission, resulting in first petitioner Nana Addo obtaining 56.85% of the valid votes cast, should be declared by this honorable court as the winner of the 2012 presidential elections. So essentially tomorrow, when we go to the court, this is what Philip Addison will be seeking for the court to
present. How about the respondents? Do they have any concluding remarks?
The point is that all of them agreed. Even the Electoral Commission believes that the petitioners have not been able to prove their case enough. And just reading from the first respondent, that is the lawyer for the first respondent, Tony Lita, would represent the president, and he said, and I quote, that it is patently clear from the history of this case that the petitioners failed to make a case for the occurrence of the alleged irregularities at the various polling stations nationwide and to provide the Electoral Commission the opportunity to deal with these allegations administratively and on the spot, because they simply lack the evidence to back their claims. So the strategy they adopted was simply to trigger the jurisdiction of this court by filing a petition and then go back to look for the evidence. This is what is more interesting, is that we submit that the refusal or neglect of the petitioners to file any complaint relating to the alleged irregularities at the various polling stations collation centers should ordinarily have denied them the opportunity to invoke the jurisdiction of this court under Article 64 in accordance with the principle of judicial deference that we are urging upon.
Essentially, they're saying that it's too late for them to, seek those remedies.
Absolutely. For them, they believe that the petitioners, right from day one, don't even have a case at all to even come before the court. But like we always said, the judges will have to decide the final bit. Before I take leave of you, Israel, just one bit, and it has to do with the security arrangement tomorrow. The security, I've spoken to some of the Greater Accra
Region Police
Freeman Tete, and he says that they're going to step up because they see this as a rehearsal for what is going to happen on the D-Day, when the outcome of this whole back and forth argument will happen. So I can guarantee that tomorrow is going to be very tight. So the caution is that stay at your home, watch multi-TV, listen to Joy News and all the media platforms.
All right.
And we'll bring you live.
Thank you very much. And certainly it's going to be live here on multi-TV all through. Everything is going to be captured here on the station. But still, in relation to the security issue that Annie just raised, the Inspector General of Police has assured the Parliamentary Select Committee on Defence and Interior his men are ready to handle any challenges that may arise after the delivery of the Supreme Court verdict on the election petition. He gave the assurance at a meeting with the Select Committee, which sought to get first-hand information on the security situation.
The IGP told the committee the police service has made strides in crowd control, having learnt lessons from recent incidents.
I would like here to assure honourable members that the police, as the lead law enforcement agency, started doing its homework from the first sitting of the Supreme Court, that is on the 16th of April this year. And since then, I think we're all aware that the police has been performing its functions accordingly to ensure that we maintain law and order not only within the Supreme Court premises, but indeed throughout the country.
He highlighted some of the service's achievements.
Have made some arrests in some of these market incidents. As we speak, 4 persons are before court. 2 have been remanded into custody in Tema, and 2 others on court bail, all in effort to be able to go down to the bottom of these fire outbreaks.
The committee earlier met with NADMO on their preparedness towards any disaster in the country.
The youth of Nkunya and the Volta region have appealed to the police to beef up security in the town. Their call follows what they describe as an uneasy calm in the town, which has made it difficult for farmers to go to their farms for fear of reprisal attacks. The youth made the appeal at a news conference in Accra.
The conflict between the people of Nkunya and Alavanyo has persisted since the early 1900s. The land boundary dispute has over the years defied efforts at resolution, including high and appeal court rulings. The scuffle has led to the loss of a number of lives. Recent clashes among the feuding factions have raised security concerns, leading to a deployment of security personnel to the area. Although calm has returned to the area, the youth of Nkunya reckon the current state of affairs leaves much to be desired. Speaking at a press conference in Accra on Tuesday, the youth lauded government's attempt to broker peace between the two communities. Kojo Tete is chairman of the Nkunya youth.
We are here to set the record straight and also to correct the misinformation that had come from the chief and people of Alavanyo, and sometimes even from the press. Now that we've got the opportunity, we have to sell our information, the correct information, to the people. If you have had 5 judgments and somebody stands and say he is not going to respect it, that is very contemptuous.
Vice chairman of the youth group, Kweku Amwa, entreated the indigents of Alavanyo to eschew violence. He called for an increase in police patrols since many farmers from Nkunya are afraid to go to their farms for fear of being attacked.
After our chiefs met the president in Accra, We have had a lot of debts at home, informing our citizens to be law-abiding, to give the president the needed time, have confidence in him that the measures he's going to take now will bring lasting, peace between us. If our neighbors are not abiding by the previous judgments, they can have new evidence. In this case, they can go to the Supreme Court. That was what we were talking about, Supreme Court. Because we believe if they go to the Supreme Court now, and the Supreme Court is able to review the case and come out with a new verdict, I hope all of us will be able to comply with the verdicts of these competent courts.
Meanwhile, the Nkonya youth have pledged to make peace their watchword in all their dealings.
We Olive of Nkonya, we always stand for peace.
Always for peace. Now, a young man believed to be in his mid-20s narrowly escaped death thanks to the timely intervention of the Wa police. The man, who is yet to be identified, was nearly lynched by a mob for taking advantage of a devout Muslim in the middle of his prayers to allegedly steal 4,000 Ghana cedis from his shop. Rafiq Salam sent in this report from the Upper West Regional Capital.
Mumuni said he launched a hunt for the suspect and bumped into him later on after he had actually given up on him. A search on him revealed the 4,000 cedis in his pocket. 2 other people in the market rushed to the scene and assaulted a young man who was rescued by the police and sent to the Wa Regional Hospital.
When my boss removed the money from his pocket, he counted the money and it was 4,000 Ghana cedis. Then the beating started. We're beating now, and then some 2 policemen who were directing traffic around the area, the store he removed the money from. They came and separated them. And then called this king and picked him to the hospital,
where he was attended to and detained at the casualty center under police guard. This is the 3rd time a suspected thief has been arrested and beaten by the people. In a previous incident not too long ago, a suspect died whilst another is still in critical condition at the Wa Regional Hospital. Residents have meanwhile vowed to mete out instant justice to suspected thieves because they claim they are often released after few days when handed over to the police. Aziz Nyeyela is the assemblyman for Sombo electoral area.
We have sent several number of criminals to the police station. The process in which the delayance and the process in which you, as the witness, have been asked to follow, it's a very long process. So to me, as a person, I think it is a step in the right direction. If a thief is caught in the process of trying to take away people's properties and what have you, it should be dealt with accordingly.
Rafiq Salam filed this report from Wa.
Up next, we bring you the business news with Parkway CSR. Stay tuned.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the business news with me, Parkway CSR. In our first story, the Institute of Financial and Economic Journalists, with support from Star Ghana, has opened a 2-day advocacy program on the 2013 budget and expectations for 2014. The forum is to afford civil society organizations, stakeholders, and the media the opportunity to provide input in addressing the country's economic challenges, assess government's approach to managing it, and offer suggestions on the way forward. Marian Toure was at the forum and filed the following report.
Ghana has missed its budget deficit target in every election year since constitutional rule was restored in 1992. A public pay hike and election spending of about $125 million, over 1% of planned annual public spending, further put a strain on the nation's finances. Researcher at the Bank of Ghana, Zachary Mumuni, is of the opinion that for government to claw back some of this money and stabilize the economy whilst reducing the deficit, policies need to be put in place to boost exports. The theme for the forum is tracking the performance of the 2013 budget and expectations for 2014. IFEJ President Lloyd Evans explains the budget should present financial journalists the opportunity to explain its content to the public.
We don't want to have a situation whereby the Minister for Finance prepares a budget, read it out, and that's the end of it. there are so many stories there that are untold. And it's for we, the financial journalists, to take interest in those things. There are so many health issues, so many educational issues, so many infrastructure issues, so many other issues that we need to bring up so that will help develop this country. People like to talk more of politics than business, and politics is not everything. What we want to say is that as journalists, let us put the politics aside a little bit and talk about economic and business and financial issues.
The program has 10 thematic areas, including the fiscal and current account deficits, issues pertaining to the health sector, employment generation, infrastructure development, and the role of agriculture in the socio-economic development of the country. Other areas are the projects to be undertaken and the public-private partnership, the current system of education, issues on sustainable energy and social protection. The forum was officially opened by former Minister of Finance, Dr. Kwesi Buche. For Joy News, Marian Ture reporting.
In other news, government has been challenged to make clear the benefits the nation stands to gain from the growing oil and gas sector. According to Stephen Dow, an international oil and gas lawyer and lecturer at Dundee University in Scotland, the local content policy as it stands now lacks clarity and detail. He threw the challenge in an interview with Joy Business at the end of a 3-day oil and gas workshop on local content.
Ghana's oil and gas industry, though at a relatively young stage, is expected to greatly impact the national economy. Top on the list of public expectation is that companies operating in the sector will rely on local products and services in the execution of the operations. The energy and petroleum industry has since developed a local content policy framework whose legislative instrument, LI, was approved by Parliament in June this year. The policy states, among others, that Ghanaians be given priority in technology transfer as well as licensing of operations in the sector. But while emphasizing the relevance of a local content policy for the sector, an oil and gas expert says the policy should be clear enough to achieve the desired results.
Right now, it's not absolutely clear what the ministry wants. The definition of what local content is absolutely critical. What we would expect to see is the ministry issuing very much more detailed guidance as to how it interprets what that total value means. Is it about a total number of jobs? Is it about number of jobs at a particular level? Is it about value of the total project? Is it about total value in the sector? And that's why you have to start asking yourself, do I want to judge local content by value, or do I want to judge local content by, for example, sheer number of jobs?
He also called on existing companies with the capacity to operate in the sector to do so.
There is things that existing companies can do in the oil industry, so for example construction or fabrication or things along those lines, which they would do for any other industry. And so existing companies have to be able to bid for existing contracts. And then there's the second side of local content, which says we Ghanaians want to do something different in the future from what we're doing now. We want to do something extra. We want to do something additional. So the technical side of the oil industry, drilling, etc., etc., etc. That side of it. The thing to focus on first is the first one. You've got to start somewhere, and that's the easy target.
The local content bill is yet to be passed into law, but there is the need for the right implementation structures to be put in place to ensure the law achieves its full objective. Abigail Adumakwentri, reporting for Joy News Business.
Bulk oil distributors are pushing for a legislative instrument that will reserve activities in the downstream oil sector for indigenous companies. This is coming after the takeover of Shell Ghana by Vivo Energy, which was formed by oil trader Vitol and Helios Investments after the two entities took over Shell International's business in Africa. The Chamber of Bulk Oil Distributors is worried this would wipe out indigenous players. Now, Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber, Senyo Hossi, appealed to government to intervene. He spoke on the CNBC Africa's International Business Program, Closing Bell, which airs on Multi-TV at 3:30 p.m. every weekday.
There was one perceived mechanism, which was a guideline requiring any participant in the downstream sector to be 50% Ghanaian, owned by a Ghanaian citizen. With this new development, it's obvious that is not enforceable. So we hardly have any mechanism to safeguard the interests of local entrepreneurs. What it means here is that local entrepreneurs in the industry are a bit at risk. They need to now look at other ways to safeguard their interests in the long term, because our downstream sector is now open to multinationals who can outmuscle them in any shape or form. It's simple. We need to get the government on our side, lobby the system, and see how we can translate the intent of having the industry being run by indigenous entrepreneurs transferred into a legislative instrument which will be enforced by the Petroleum Authority in Ghana.
Deputy Minister of Education Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa says private universities that plow back their profits into expansion of their infrastructure will be exempted from the newly introduced tax on private universities. He gave the assurance at a conference with student leaders of tertiary institutions.
The Deputy Minister explained the government's policy is targeted at the profits of the private universities and not to increase their costs as has been suggested.
If you make profit at the end of the year and you are plowing back the profit, you are going to use the profit to establish more hostels, to construct new lecture theaters, then that profit will not be taxed. But if the tax is going to be shared as, profit, if the profit is going to be shared as dividends amongst shareholders or for the owner of the private university, then it is only fair that that profit, which is not going to be plowed back, is taxed. So, strictly speaking, there should be no reason why they should lead to increase in fees.
The student leaders of the various student associations stated their concerns, prominent among which were the increase in fees, inadequate accommodation facilities, difficulty of accessing the Student Loan Trust, and the upgrade of technical schools and colleges of education to university status. Speaking on the strike by the University Teachers Association of Ghana, Samuel Okudzeto-Ablakwa says negotiations were never concluded on book and research allowances, adding that the association does not even know how much it is to be paid to them, as the allowance for which reason they are on strike.
The issue now is that the book and research allowance has to be paid. And why has that become an issue? The university lecturer is receiving, but negotiations are ongoing with the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission. Those negotiations have not been concluded. If government is asked to pay now, we don't know what to pay. We don't have an amount to pay. If you ask UTAG leadership how much is owed you, they do not know.
He also called on student leaders present to appeal to their colleagues to conduct themselves appropriately on.
And that's all on the business segment. My name is Pakwisi Asari.
Time for the very latest of the world of sports. The Ghana Football Association has confirmed the Black Stars will play Turkey in an international friendly next week. According to the GFA, the match will be played at the Olympic Stadium in Istanbul on Wednesday, 14th August 2013. The GFA moved quickly to arrange the match against the European side after Iran pulled out of a scheduled match with Ghana on the FIFA International Friendly Match Day. The match will help the Black Stars prepare for the 2014 World Cup crucial clash against Zambia. Meanwhile, the Football Association, the Premier League Board and GALCA have agreed that the top 4 competition will be played ahead of the 2013-2014 league season. The top 4 competition will start from the 1st to the 11th of September, while the Premier League is scheduled to begin on September 15. The 4 participating clubs for this year's edition are Asante Kotoko, Brecum Chelsea, Midyema and the Buswa Dwarfs. Ronaldo has hit back at Mourinho following the Chelsea manager's belittling comments about the star over the weekend. Mourinho criticized the attacker's attitude and stated he struggles to deal with criticism and insisted he's not the real Ronaldo. We move away from Spain and get into the United States of America, and new Seattle Sounders signing Clint Dempsey says that he's excited and ready for next season's Major League Soccer season. Now, Clint Dempsey joined the American side after Spurs agreed a fee over the weekend for the former Spurs midfielder. A quick one before I take leave of you.
Now, he went into the chase 10 weeks ago, relatively an unknown, but may well be the first Ghanaian to bring home the $300,000 at stake. After 10 weeks, Elikem Kumoji, the tailor, has survived longer than any other Ghanaian housemate in the history of the Big Brother Africa reality show, and is now guaranteed at least another week after he escaped nomination this week. What are his chances of being $300,000 richer after the show comes to a climax in less than 3 weeks? I've been speaking to Dela, our in-house entertainment critic. So, Dela, tell me, what does it look like for Elikem? It looks like he's pretty close, but he may just not get it.
I think he stands a great chance of winning the man in this.
You think so? Why?
Yes, because if you check the performances over time, in Big Brother 2 in 2007, we have Kwakwiti, he did 70 days. In 2011, we had Big Brother amplified with Alex Baini, he also did 70 days. We have Ghana's best performing housemate so far, Keita, last year, Big Brother Star Game, he did 77 days. And already today is day 72 of the show. And clearly, Elikem is not up for possible eviction, so he's going to cross that mark. And now we have 8 housemates in the game right now.
Okay, by the end of this week, we're expecting that 2 of those housemates are going to be out. And Elikem is guaranteed to be in the last 6.
Yes, he's guaranteed to be the last 6. But normally we know that 5 housemates make it to the finale. So we don't know how the dynamics are going to be like. We don't know what Big Brother is going to do this time around. But clearly, I think he stands a great chance of being in the top 5.
Okay, but let's see. Let's say Elikem makes it to the very final. And there are 2 Nigerians in there. There's going to be Beverly and there's going to be Melvin. Yes. 2 Nigerians. Yes. How does that play out in our interest if we have only 1 Ghanaian there and there's this West African alliance?
It's going to help us if we have Melvin, Beverly and Angelo in there. In the sense that Nigeria, they're going to share the votes. And every country
is going to be
split, and it will go in favor of one person, so the one country vote. South Africa is clearly going to vote for Angelo, but we're going to get vote from Zimbabwe, that I'm sure of. I think Sierra Leone probably will vote for us, and probably the rest of Africa, because Nigeria, they've won it like 3 times already, and at least Ghana deserves a shot.
So they want it to go elsewhere apart from Nigeria?
Clearly, they will not like to vote for Nigeria to win, because they've dominated for some years now, and clearly it should go to a different country. So I think when we get those votes, Ghana is going to vote for Elikem, Zimbabwe is going to vote for Elikem, probably Sierra Leone, then probably the rest of Africa. We're going to have 4 country votes. Then probably, if you are lucky, we will get some votes in there from left, right, center, probably from Kenya and the rest. I think this time around, probably Ghana is going to win the money. I'm very confident of that. If we make it to the top 5. And that is if there's no cheating, actually, and everything is clear.
All right, so why does he think that there's some cheating in there? Well, Dela with his analysis, but that's it for Showbiz. For the bulletin, before we go though, a quick run through our top stories. National Forum that's a single spine pay policy underway with a call from the president to stakeholders to consider finding a permanent pay policy for Article 71 office holders. The TUC has meanwhile once again challenged government's claim that public sector salaries are a major drain on the state. CDD Afrobarometer survey indicates Ghanaians wouldn't mind paying higher taxes if only government will be more transparent about how they are used. IGP assures Parliamentary Select Committee the police service is ready to deal with any disturbances that may arise from the Supreme Court ruling on the election petition. And government promises private universities which plow back their profits will be exempted from its taxation policy. That's it. For more news, log on to myjoyonline.com. My name is Israel. Have a good evening.